Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome back to 2021 and another edition of our Mystery Wine Blind Tasting Series. I'm excited to be back with you. It's been a little bit of a hiatus, a couple weeks now since we've had a chance to do this together. And frankly, a couple weeks since I've had a chance to do this at all. So we're gonna have to work together, i.e. you're gonna have to help me get through this particular one as I am no doubt rusty. So who's with us this evening? Who is joining us? Happy New Year, Tran. How are you, man? And the McCardys are with us. John, I think I saw John this afternoon out running errands. And Matthew Fitzsimmons is with us. Hey, Matthew. And Allison's here tonight. Great. I hope everybody enjoyed a wonderful New Year's celebration. Put 2020 in the rearview mirror and are excited about what's to come in 2021. We certainly are here. Hey, the Burses are here, good, and Susan Crandall's here. Chuck is with us this evening. And Isabel's here tonight too. Thank you for joining us, Isabel, as always. Mary, the Kestenbaums are here. Oh, we missed you too. I hope your holidays were great. As I said, we enjoyed a little bit of a busy sequence here at Field and Main for the holidays. The Christmas and New Year's weeks were among the busiest we've ever experienced in the history of our restaurant. So that's very exciting, and that's thanks, no doubt, of course, to all of you and to the cabanas and the variety of offerings that we now have to share with each and every one of you. The Toppers are with us. Chris Rutten's here. He's got a dry run, unfortunately. Yep, that's fair, though. But you can use what we talk about to try to single in on what we're tasting, and maybe you can venture a guess. Many have before you and done quite well doing so. The Sanders are here, and Robert's watching with us. Interesting, huh? So we're into the red territory. How do we do this? We look at it, right? Well, first you've opened it, you put it in your glass. Some of you have already made food and are enjoying this wine with that food, I'm sure. JR and Mickey Powell is here, and the Millettes are here. Stephen picked up, I think for Tran and others, who basically they picked up 7 weeks worth of wines for 4 different participants, which is really exciting. It was really cool to see all the wines laid out the other day. Kathy Fontana's here with Trish and Andy. Very good. All right, so this is red wine. There's the visual on that for you, Chris, and others who perhaps don't have the wine. What do you see, folks? Is this clear? Is it hazy? For those of you that are new and joining us, we're sometimes using or referencing this grid sheet that helps you to work your way from top to bottom, from appearance to the nose, to the aromas that are in the nose, and then the aromas that you'd find on the palate, and to the profile on that palate, and then finally to some initial conclusions. And Allison Laitman, you're doing the same thing as Chris Rutten, who's doing it a little bit blind, but you can come back by anytime and pick up this week's and rewatch the video, or just play along like you are tonight. It's a bit hazy. Yes, it has a little bit of a haze to it. It's hard to see perhaps there, but if I were to angle that a touch more, you'll see that there's a little bit of bubble that came out by way of the decanting, I think, and then my pour. It's otherwise pretty clear. You can see the lines through the page. The writers are with us this evening, Zach and Megan. Hey guys. And Candy. It's clear but not too hazy, strawberry colored. Yep. And my dad is watching. Hey Dad, how are you? He will be doing this blind as well, or dry as we've coined that phrase. Ruby in color, right? So from the clear perspective, not much haze, maybe a little bit of bubble that kind of hazed things up to start with, and a slight chill that might have also caused some of that haze. Kathy's weighing in. Hi Kathy this evening. There's a dead ringer for your voice in the restaurant this evening. I thought you were here dining tonight. So yes, we're talking about clear wine that has a ruby color to it, and a ruby color, almost strawberry colored, was one of the calls earlier. Jan Nelson saying a deep garnet. There's a little bit, do you get a little garnet on yours, Jan? On the rim variation, maybe a touch. I've got this super bubble quality kind of happening on mine. I don't think this is sparkling. I'm going to get there in a minute, but as I swirl it and continue to swirl, those bubbles still maintain. And that was, or maybe that's just the glass. Bear with me a second, I'm gonna get a different glass. It dawned on me that perhaps I have a little bit of like soap in the glass. That might be the cause for a little bit of bubble. So, cool. All right, Jim Eastman's here, and Beth is with us this evening. All right, so what do you smell? How does the nose smell? Is it clean? Do you smell anything that's off? Weird aromas like wet cardboard. Volatile acidity would be in the form of sort of a Band-Aid-y quality, or do you smell any sort of acetate kind of nail polish remover? Anything like that that would be overtly off about this particular wine. Hey, John, cheers to you, sir. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, and Mildred's joining us too. I don't smell anything that's overtly, yep, I think that's it. Isabel, I think it is my swirl. It's creating a froth. It's so strong and so powerful, or I'm so out of practice that my swirl is resulting in the frothiness of this particular wine. So I'll let it sit for a minute. Susan's noting some raisins and some blackberries and some strawberries, and Colleen is joining us too. Kristen is getting a bit of acetate for her. Yeah, I heard just a hint of that kind of volatile acidity, maybe just a tiny bit. Pomegranate, potting soil, Chambord, so a liquorous quality of cherry fruit, cherry coming from the McCartys, and Chambord giving you some of that kind of really concentrated alcoholic fruit quality. So as you're looking at it then, are we seeing a series of tears or legs that are coming down the glass that would indicate this being a light-bodied wine, a medium-bodied wine, a more robust, heavyweight wine? What do you think? What are you seeing? Definitely the formation of those tears. Let's see if this helps you if I put this white behind it. Maybe kind of a little bit easier that way, I think. So the tears are forming on the glass. You can see them sheeting and going with relative speed. So this is, not the weightiest of wines, and that ruby color and sort of the pale kind of clear quality to it would indicate maybe this is a medium-bodied wine. Certainly not a heavy wine. Earthiness comments can come up. Kathy's calling it loamy. Kathy, when you say loamy, what are you describing? And Kristen, yes, to your point, fast legs, lighter to medium-bodied, exactly right. So they're thick, they form thick, but they go fast and they don't hold for a very long time. So this is more of a medium-bodied wine, maybe on the lighter side of things, but medium is where we're headed. Fresh soil is what Kathy's noting by way of loamy. So if you think about that kind of fresh, kind of falling through your fingers, black soil that you would pot in, you're talking about loaminess. So there is some of that, right? So it's not as much a decomposed soil, right? It's a fully decomposed in that case, but it isn't like a composted soil. It doesn't have manure element in it. It doesn't have a very earthen profile, but it has an earthy element to it. So cool. Definitely on that fruit element. So Matthew, for fast legs. So fast legs, it's sort of describing, do they form quickly, and then how fast do they go down the glass? And that's relative to other formations. And it's just an indication potentially of some form of alcohol, or really I should say some form of sugar, which might be alcohol, right? So think of how honey, if you put honey in a glass, right, it would go extremely slow. It would form a leg and go incredibly slow. That's super high sugar content. The sugar content can be, by way of fermentation, turned into alcohol, and that may form a leg, which would give you a leg that's a little bit slower forming and slower running and perhaps thicker, and that would give you a potential indication of the alcohol in the wine. And the alcohol gives you an indication of potentially the body of a wine and the location of where it might be grown. In terms of a very full-bodied, slow-moving leg would be an indication of of a richer, more robust varietal that might be potentially grown in a warmer climate where you'd have potentially more alcohol. So Gideon's with us this evening. You're getting mashed fruit, Jan. So kind of just a broken up fresh fruit, not necessarily cooked fruit or jammy fruit, but broken, which is kind of cool. And Colleen and Roland are watching with us. Roland wrote a wonderful little piece on Facebook, if you're following him, about his experience at Barbersville, which was really cool. Shout out to you, Roland. Okay, so, and I just wanted to make sure it wasn't bubbly. It's not. As you're looking at this, and we're thinking sort of a muddled fruit, a crushed fruit that has sort of raspberry elements to it. It has sort of a medium body in terms of its leg presentation. It has an appearance that's sort of ruby-ish. So what varietals would we be talking about? What potential varietals fit that profile? As we're developing the profile for this wine, what should we consider? And what should we not consider? A fun wine. Any thoughts, folks, on what would be something we might consider grape varietal wise? Like, should we consider Gamay and Pinot Noir and Grenache, Syrah, Merlot, moving way into kind of Cabernet, moving our way into Tannat. Isabel's noting that Zin and Cab are probably out due to the medium body. Yeah, right. And that fruited element. We have a little bit of that fresh earthiness, but not necessarily a ton of it. Kathy's saying she'd consider Gamay. And Jan's saying Syrah is an option. Yeah. So moderate to lighter side of things. Chad's thrown out their Pinot, and we could consider Pinot. Yep. Right? Kathy'd consider Pinot too. Yeah, we should be kind of on the lighter to medium-bodied spectrum of things, and I still have this wine folly chart here just for reference for your benefit. But if you look at from lighter to medium, right? If we're talking about Pinot Noir, we're talking about maybe Mencia, talking about reading through this Cabernet Franc, Carignan, a Valpolicella blend, but even maybe Sangiovese on the lighter side of things, right? So, and that's where you start to get into the medium-bodied wines with Barbera and Dolcetto and Merlot and Montepulciano, and so we can kind of consider that range. Some people are throwing out question marks, or Isabel is anyway, about French, American, Australian. Kristen's throwing out GSM maybe, a lighter GSM perhaps. So let's try this and work the palate first in terms of verifying the intensity of the body weight. Is it pretty heavy? Is it robust? Or is it something that's a little bit lighter? On the palate, does what we saw in the wine and even smell perhaps really come to bear on the palate? Matthew's throwing out Grenache. Star's joining us. Hi, Star. Hi, honey. Jan is saying she gets some black fruit and there's no sanguineness. Kathy's noting that she would otherwise get from something like Mourvedre. And so talk to me about acid and tannin. And Susan's noting acid right off the bat. Rick's joining us. Thank you, sir. And Randall's here too. Hey, Randall. Hey, guys. The acidity is it's on the side of your mouth, perhaps on the top of your mouth. Depends. It's in different places for different people, but pay particular attention to the acidity right now and how long you continue to salivate. Oh, Catherine's walking. Hi, Kathy. Say hi to Mark too if he's there. If you're continually salivating, is it still persisting? This wine has, I think, a moderate plus kind of level of acidity. I still have some acidity in my mouth. How about tannin? Any of that drying sensation, any of that feeling like you've got a cotton ball stuck up in your gums, or a drying quality that happens on your palate? Any any sort of astringency that you might pick up at the back end that sometimes comes from tannin. Is this a tannic wine? Erica's noting that it's not real tannic to her. Same thing with Susan. I concur 100%. Not really much tannin at all. There's a little faint hint of it at the very back end of the taste, but it's pretty light. And so that pushes us more toward the light to medium body, right? Talked about the density weight. How about the alcohol? Are you getting any retronasal kind of alcohol burn on this wine, or is it a little bit lower alcohol? I love it seeing the two Jans say hi to each other. That's great. As I've said in the past, it's such a rewarding part of this to know that a number of you now know each other, at least virtually, if not in person, by way of our chats. Yeah, Susan, medium, kind of moderate alcohol. I wouldn't expect this to be high either, Eric. I think you're quite right, and maybe even potentially more on the lower side. It's not weighty by way of alcohol, as the Swanbergs are certainly saying, which Jan's also pointing out that's no burns. It's yummy. It's easy, isn't it? I'm finding it enters the mouth and kind of you want the next sip. That acidity interplay with this wine makes you want to have a little bit more. It's got some body though. It has sort of, if you break up the taste experience into thirds, that second third has sort of a fruit weight to it, right? A fruit density. And I think it would be perfect with your pizza tonight, Kristen. This is a happy pizza wine. I think that acidity and some of that reddish fruit and the tang and that loamy element. Yeah, this would be good. Do you pick up any of the flavors that we got on the nose in the palate? So Susan's noting blackberries, blueberries, strawberries. Blueberries. And ripe. It is ripe. The fruit's ripe. The fruit's muddled or crushed. And Isabel's hoping that there might be a little bit of pizza. Yeah, I think a little button mushroom pizza kind of on with this would be really nice. Is this predominantly just fruit, as you pointed out, Susan, or do we pick up any other elements on the palate? Are you getting anything woody? Are you picking up any seeds or nuts? Or Ann McCarty is throwing out pepper, black pepper or bell peppers. And Kristen's saying Johnny's got the faintest hint of green pepper toward the finish. There's a tiny bit of astringency here. A little hint of that astringency at the back end of this. So we could consider Cabernet Franc perhaps. And I'm sorry, I just missed a whole series of potential varietals. I saw Gamay and I saw, I'm not sure what else I missed. I apologize. If you want to reissue that, that'd be great. Chocolate, yep. Black pepper is coming for Anne, and my Uncle Lou is watching. Hello, Lou. Black pepper coming through in this wine would be a strong indication then for something along the lines of Syrah. So maybe we're drinking a really light Syrah from the world. Isabel, Carmenere is an interesting idea. I think we would find more intensity, but we would get some pyrazine potentially from Carmenere. So we could be drinking a very light version of Carmenere, which we might get from, say, Chile or South America. Phyllis and Holly are watching with us. The fruit profile too, we are, how far in? We are 20 minutes in, and this is the historic point at which most wines begin to change a little bit. That sort of freshy fruit, more fruited nose is dissipating a touch for me and heading more into that loamy fruit quality. It seems like the wine just got a little bit more serious. But the body didn't necessarily get more tannic, but a little bit of licorice and anise and fennel, so some of those sort of aromatic spices and Gary kind of quality of things there. That licorice element It's oftentimes something I taste on Pinot Noir and Oregon Pinot Noir, Australian Pinot Noir. Isabel's asking me about what I mean by serious. There was just an easy quality to this wine, and that first third kind of was, of the first third of the tasting experience was just kind of light. And it gained a little bit more in density. I think some of its more component parts, instead of hiding behind the veil, have kind of peeked out around the veil and are showing a touch more. And so therefore it's gotten a touch more serious as opposed to less serious or just sort of fun. And I don't have a judgment call based on what is fun or serious. Fun wines are fun wines and serious wines are serious wines, and both are delightful and enjoyable and have their place. Candy Cool. Kevin is drinking Zweigelt. That's a neat idea. So an Austrian red giving us some red fruit character, low tannin. Yeah. What if this were, say, like that's an interesting prompt too, because what if this were Pinot Noir too from Germany or from maybe even Austria, a non-traditional place for Pinot Noir. Zweigelt being another varietal you should consider. So Pinot Noir, or we had Gamay, we had Pinot Noir, Zweigelt, Carmenere was thrown out. Syrah was the black pepper element. So if we're saying Zweigelt and Pinot Noir, well, if we're saying Zweigelt, we're thinking probably Austria. Yeah, Kathy loves the Zweigelt call. It gives us the cherries, the berries, the pepper element, licorice and cocoa. And that also, Zweigelt can give you some of that astringency at the back end of things sometimes, some of that phenolic bitterness that's there. So Zweigelt would be a fun one. Schiavia is the Swanberg's call, and I don't know anything about that varietal, so I couldn't weigh in there. Senso is a thought from Isabel, or at least a question. And Senso, so in the context of for sort of fun and serious, I don't know that Senso is necessarily always serious, but it is more challenging for me. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that the wines usually are tense. They have a tension to it. And this one is just sort of like, hi, I'm happy to be here and happy to be in your glass. And I don't ever really get that from Senso. I get this kind of like, I'm in your glass and I am fantastic and you'll like me. And I do usually, but there's that tension to it that doesn't make me want to kind of like just sip on it and enjoy it. It's more like you got to work at it. I might be reading too much into Senso, perhaps. But I don't know. I would have a harder time kind of going to Senso with this. Isabel is also noting too that this has got more of a Beaujolais party style to it, and I think that's a fair understanding of kind of what we were talking about too. I don't know if we would get the peppery element. I don't know how much loamy element we would get. And Eric is asking, so why not Zinfandel? I don't know that we have the body weight, right? The intensity. Some of the elements that we've described are Zinfandel for sure, but not the weight. But it would be a fun kind of happy, easy Zinfandel if this was the case. But the lighter to medium body, I would think more we would be talking more about medium plus body to kind of head into Zinfandel land. And the fruit notes are fading, and that's kind of what I was talking about, as Jan's pointing out, that this is kind of venturing from just sort of that simple fruited wine to something that has a little more seriousness to it. Do you think this is a blend? Kathy's asking. What do you guys think? Is there enough complexity and nuance here to be a blend? Way back in the beginning, we threw out the idea, or someone did, of a GSM or Grenache, a Syrah Mourvedre blend. Erica's saying she's only ever had happy, easy, light Zins. Okay, that's fair, and I think those do exist. So we could be talking about Zinfandel here in that case. Sometimes Zin though gets pretty focused and structured, a little bit more power to them. The Millettes like Austria and the Zweigelt call, I'm assuming. Kathy McGee thinks this is a blend. What blend? Like a Valpolicella blend? Like a Corvina blend? Quite a few people like the Zweigelt Austria call. I like it too. Blaufränkisch. We had some of that blue element kind of talked about, blueberry. So maybe we could be talking about Blaufränkisch. Again, not a ton of experience, mostly just enjoyed a series of Klaus's Blaufränkisch, Klaus Wittauer, who brings in a number of wines from Austria. And those Blaufränkisches fit some of the descriptors here, for sure. And I think that's, for me, an indication that I should probably do a little side-by-side comparison between Zweigelt and Blaufränkisch to be able to understand the differences between the two. Are we getting any smokiness, folks? Not particularly. From the oak standpoint, are we picking up any really overt oaky elements? Do you get some sort of seeds, nuts, some smoke perhaps, some spice coming through on this particular wine? A light campfire scent for Jan. McCarty's like the Blaufränkisch idea. Mm-hmm. I do too. There's just a real pleasantness to this. A little funky asparagus kind of coming through for someone. The Austrian Zweigelt 2018 is Susan's stake in the ground. That's awesome. Spice more than pepper. And the Swanbergs are thinking the Blaufränkisch should have more tannin. I've had it certainly more in a reserve form that has more tannin. And the foxes are here tonight. Hello, guys. Welcome. Yeah. Okay, so Carmenere. We had Carmenere, Gamay, Pinot Noir. We'll come back to Zweigelt and to Blaufränkisch, which Kathy is saying is going to be her call. Zweigelt Blaufränkisch blend from 2018. But Carmenere, as we talked about, we think we'd have a little bit more pyrazine. I think we'd have a little more structure, a little more power, and maybe a tiny bit darker color, maybe. Zinfandel we thought about, it could be an easygoing Zin, but it probably be a little bit heavier if it was. Gamay, not getting sort of that tutti fruity berry kind of quality on this wine. It has the body weight potentially for that, but not necessarily the profile. Pinot Noir, maybe it's German Pinot Noir, for example, from a riper year. It doesn't taste super signature Pinot Noir from, say, Oregon. It could be sort of a Morning Peninsula kind of Pinot Noir. So I think you could argue that point in this tasting, and that then brings us back to Zweigelt and Blaufränkisch. And as I've noted, I don't know that I could distinguish between the two, other than perhaps a discussion of the idea of this wine being a little bit more structured for Blaufränkisch, and therefore Zweigelt might have worked its way into the discussion that way. And so I'm happy with the Zweigelt call 2018. I think that'd be a very interesting call on this. I could make an argument for a 2018 Spätburgunder, and that's what Isabel's noting there. Italian blend. I don't know that I'm comfortable kind of with the blend, Jan. I think there's not like enough going on here, but I could absolutely be wrong about that. A dual varietal blend would be potentially interesting. We'll see about that. But so, yeah, we've got a number of people saying kind of either a Blaufränkisch Zweigelt blend, or a Zweigelt, or a Blaufränkisch, or perhaps a Spätburgunder. But seemingly more like 2018 and Austrian being the choice. So let's do this the easy way right off the bat. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to show you the top. That means Austria. So when you see the red and white lines, or the two lines bordering the white line on a capsule, that means you're in Austria. So at least we have that right. We know the country, we got that correct. And this is from Burgenland, from Steindorfer. This is a red table wine, and I don't know what the blend is because it's not listed. So for those of you with access to your computer screen, what is the Apethlon Rouge? Is this a blend of Zweigelt and Blaufränkisch? 13.5% alcohol, so it actually reads a little bit lighter perhaps than the actual alcohol content, and it is a lovely, fun wine for sure. This is kind of a happy wine, right? I mean, it's a wine you just kind of want to drink. 40% Blaufränkisch, 30% Zweigelt, and 30% Saint Laurent. And Saint Laurent gives you a lighter profile typically, so that's cool. We get to try an Austrian red that has some cool varietals to it. So nice call, everybody. That fresh fruit component on the red side is, let's catalog that in our minds as kind of being an indication perhaps of Austria, giving us, so where we would find that fresh fruit in a red wine typically for most places, right, it would venture more into a weightier wine with darker fruit, like black fruit. And we got a little black fruit notes here, but some of that reddish fruit kind of came through, and then that earthen element came in through, and it was gaining a little bit of a funk quality toward the finish, and that we have the asparagus element. So that's an indication I think we should sort of, as we're roughing out those profiles, Austria gives us some fresh fruit, it gives us high acidity or moderate acidity, it gives us a silkiness, the kind of a soft, easy quality about the wine itself. And then a blend like this, that's cool. I really wouldn't have, as I said, I didn't think it necessarily was presenting blend-like characteristic, and it's pretty well put together. This is, as we also noted, 2018, so it's a young wine, but certainly happy and ready to go right now. It's not a wine that I would necessarily cellar and save. It's a wine that I would just enjoy, and good valued wine. So way to go, guys, gals. This is a fun way back in. We've got, yes, this is one of Klaus's wines, cool. So big shout out to Klaus Wittauer, who has done a wine dinner with us in the past, has joined us on this chat in the past, and has watched what we've done. So it's pretty cool that we get to do this again. And we've got a series, as I mentioned earlier, of about 6 wines I think at least picked out already. And Tony rushed upstairs today saying, I've got the next one picked out too, which means we've got 7 wines worth of weeks, or 7 weeks worth of wines about to be here. We will be doing this again next week. So I look forward to seeing all of you, and hopefully more next week. And if I don't see any of you in the interim, have a wonderful week. But if I do, that'll be all the better for me. I'll be here all weekend. So cheers, everybody. Welcome back, and happy 2021.